it's crazy, right? It was crazy. Anyway.
Well, just put it like, you know,
This is dedicated to all. Get your eyes,
give it water.
get your eyes. Oh, I do know much about biology. I don't know much about geography. I don't know much about geography. But there must be something for me. I talk about the ghettoology, life in the ghetto, starvation, frustration, mass mentality. Oh yeah, I've got a head in starvation. I pass my grades in separation. The ghetto was my classroom, and life itself was my teacher. Talking about ghettoology, life in the ghetto, starvation, frustration. Mass mentality. Oh
Sounds like electroshock situation. That's the area that hurts.
yeah.
Oh, it's like a pad. It's like a pad. It stays on there. Wherever you put it, it's kind of like shock. It's padded. It was weird when you put it on.
Have you heard
Yeah,
of
man.
that?
I was over there, man, like, you don't even know what's wrong. Trying to put my man on the tender. It works, man. Yeah, fine.
Ready, spaghetti?
I pass my grade in separation. The ghetto
244.
was my classroom,
We're already live, so they're gonna be
and
staring at
life
me.
itself was my teacher.
Are we waiting or we starting?
No, it's live, so.
We waiting?
You don't know much about the science book. Don't know much about the French chapter.
Yes, on.
You don't know much about the English book. Get to life in the ghetto. Starvation, frustration. Children.
That was a movie, right? Or a book?
It was both.
Yeah.
Spaghetti?
I looked everywhere.
We ready?
That wasn't 15 minutes, but yes.
He said he spoke to the people that are gonna be late and they gave the go ahead. Madam,
Okay.
so hold your horses.
Give prerequisites.
Prerequisites.
Yeah, you know. A little free talk.
Go ahead.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
She's teaching, so.
What pre-talk do you want to go over?
Just refresh what we went over last week, I guess.
Do we have any questions from last week?
It says some people weren't here last week. With me.
You have questions?
Yeah, what happened? Thank you. See?
You're more.
You're more, he said.
That's what happened. You learned that you're a more. That's what
Give
happened.
a quick synopsis, quick little short summary. Come on, take a note. Look, you're just taking notes.
Hocus pocus. Abracadosas.
Take all your notes on your phone.
Yeah, y'all can record if you want.
Pictures.
Y'all stayed in detention, huh? Yeah, that's y'all did.
I did.
I know you did.
I stayed in suspension.
Okay, that's it. No, my whole senior year, I had detention for like the last 2 semesters.
You don't listen.
I even got detention in elementary school.
Wow.
I was working in the system.
Savages. Alright. You ready, you heathens? So this is the reason why you don't know anything I'm about to go over is because of this. This is the publications of the General Education Board, okay, Occasional Papers #1, The Country School of Tomorrow, by Frederick T. Gates. The General Education Board was incorporated by the United States Congress in 1902. So if you don't know, either memorize that or write it down. The General Education Board was incorporated by the United States Congress, which means they know about this, in 1902. And you can cross-reference that by Google searching LOC.gov, which stands for Library of Congress.gov. So when you click on Google, you go on the search bar, you type in LOC.gov space incorporation of the General Education Board, and then they'll show you the resolution from Congress themselves where they incorporated this and made it the national standard for education. You'll also see in this book, it's about 20 pages. I only have 2 pages, the front and page 6, where they talk about bringing children to school on buses. So our entire modern day school, college, is based off of this. Don't worry about it, shorty, you know what I'm saying? This is going to stay here, by the way, in the barbershop, and I'm also going to pass it around again so you can take pictures.
Did you go over the philosophy last time, or that's on the
I'm going over, yes, but I'm going over it again right now as we speak. With your permission.
Excuse me, mister.
With your permission.
Excuse me, Mr. Teacher.
It's all right, you got attention. So this is their philosophy. This is page 6. It says, the title is A Vision of the Remedy. It says, we shall not try to make these people, meaning all of us, or any of their children, into philosophers, or men of learning, or of science. We are not to raise up from among them authors, orators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor shall we cherish even the humbler ambition to raise up from among them lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have ample supply. So their goal was never to teach you anything about crap. So when you hear all the parents complaining about our children aren't learning, we need better books and we need more music programs, and why they cancel the chess club, and that's why. And when they talk about whom they have ample supply, they're talking about different Masonic organizations where they put what they want in office, whereas the owners of corporations and businesses support different politicians that go to the same Masonic order that they go to, instead of it being just a free and open election amongst the people. So feel free to pass this around, take pictures, send it to your friends, send it to your mom, send it to your brother and your cousin and your cat. Any questions on that?
What's the website again? Because it took me somewhere.
LOC.gov.
Oh, Library of Congress?
Yes.
Okay.
Libraryofcongress.gov. Most of everything I'm about to go over is you can get certified documents from the Library of Congress. So if you wanted to, you can go to loc.gov duplication services, search for that specific book and page number, and they'll give it to you certified. Like, here you go. We weren't going to teach you anything.
So yeah, I was gonna say for the people. That means these people who are, you know,
The elite,
the Masons who
quote unquote.
run stuff like the Elks and the Lions. Any city you drive through, you'll see on the highway or on the streets of the city which Mason or not
Like
secret
if you
society,
you know
but
when
like
you enter
fraternal society.
when you enter Attleboro, right?
Yeah.
And at
They
that
have,
red light,
like, the
there's
lions.
that pole with the sign that says whatever Masonic whatever's there. That's everywhere.
So pay attention because like they run
Everything.
the city, you know, the city hall. So anything that the hood's gonna get this much money, that's who decides. Because since we don't go to city hall, we don't make our voices heard. We don't show up and demand, you know, A, B, and C from them.
Because we don't know what A, B, and C is.
Exactly. So they literally position themselves within that fraternal order as lawyers, as city hall members, as teachers, as policemen, as everything. So they can just control all of society.
Yeah. So if you go down Broad Street until you enter Cranston, and there's that split, if you go towards the left, you'll see Alhambra Circle, which Alhambra is the stronghold of the Moors. Then you'll see Moorland, which is a dead-end street, and then you'll see the Shriners Temple, the ancient Arabic order of the nobles of the Mystic Shrine, and you'll see a statue with them wearing this. And then right next to it is the Police Motorcycle Club. And if you go to One Dorrance Plaza, the courthouse on downtown Providence,
6th District.
yeah, that's an address, One Dorrance, whatever. Right next to it, you'll see a law office, and then next to that, you'll see Masonic Temple, and then next to that, you'll see Veggie Fund, and then next to that, you'll see the club, where you go to the side of the building, you go down those steps, the club. Guess who owns the building? The Masons. So you think, hey, you just partying, you know what I'm saying, buying all these bottles, guess who you paying? The people oppressing you. And then you go to their courts, and you pay what? Fines and fees. And who you paying again? The same people who you just bought the bottles from.
And just for pop culture, if you know where there used to be TRL, the MTV Studios, that's literally in a Masonic building. Like if you see the outside of the building, you'll see MTV upstairs, and then you'll see the plaque right there that says which
Masonic
Masonic
Temple.
temple it is. Yeah.
I think it goes as deep as like the geography of like how they even make. Like I know there's like a bird's eye view picture on Google of New York, and where the World Trade is, it's literally like Central Park is kind of like a rectangle, and it's just like it's all symbolism.
It's all in our faces everywhere.
Facts. So we're going to be going over the Constitution today because if you name literally any so-called black problem, Moore Science has a solution for it. And part of Moore Science is, of course, in the Constitution and the rights of indigenous people. So literally anyone, just name one thing that so-called black people, so-called people of color, so-called Latin people, so-called brown people, so-called red people are going through, and there's a solution for it. Go ahead, name one thing.
Gentrification.
What? Not you, no Moors. If you got a fez on, shut up.
I don't have none, so
If you're a declared Moor, shut your mouth.
No, that's true. Gentrification.
Gentrification. Okay. If you read the rights of indigenous people, it'll say that we have the rights to our lands and resources back. There you go. It also says they cannot force assimilation. It also says that they cannot separate indigenous people from their communities. It also says that they cannot move indigenous people anywhere. Another problem.
just to that covers deportation, just to add.
Deportation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Since you can't move anybody anywhere.
Exactly.
This is our land, and you know Europeans came here by boat, and a lot of people think that if you're from South
Southern.
America or from any of the islands that they're immigrants in this country. They're not. This is their land. You're Aboriginal and Indigenous. They're the immigrants. So if anybody should get deported for their crimes and their sins, it should be Europeans back to Europe. They don't get deported back to Italy or to Ireland whenever they go to jail or they're raping children or any of that stuff.
Right. Another issue is our people have been going to jail for years for having plants in their pocket. But did you know that Article 24 of the Rights of Indigenous People says we have the right to maintain and preserve all medicinal plants, animals, and minerals? Did you also know that there's cases in the United States courts that specify if If there's a right that is equal and open to all, it's not subject to a license or a tax. So you don't need a medical marijuana license if you're an indigenous person. Which is the first issue at law, status. Right, so there's 3 issues at law. The first one is status, which is your mental competence first, meaning what you know, because status is standing, state, or condition, so the state of your mind. Right? And then after that is your citizenship, which if you're an indigenous person, you cannot be a citizen of the United States. Any questions on that? Because that's very important.
Why?
Why what?
I can't you be?
Because if you look up, please write this down. If you look up, no service in here.
Use Wi-Fi.
Well, I do, just slow. 1 second. Is there a password?
Yes.
Don't say it. You're live, or I'm live. I'll have you type it in. Thank you. Thank you. If I wasn't trolling so much on Instagram, I would already I would already found what I'm looking for. All right, so it's Luther versus Borden. Luther B. Borden. Borden. This was in the United States Supreme Court from 1849. And you'll see in that case, it specifies how the state of Rhode Island is a colony. Right? So if the state of Rhode Island is a colony, and there were people here before the establishment of that colony, how can those indigenous people be citizens of said colony?
It's impossible.
It's impossible. Like if all of us here go to China and we set up our own colony, can we make Chinese people citizens of our stuff?
Yeah.
No, because we're on their land.
I mean, no, but like, that's what
We
they
could force them, but that's not right.
It's because America came after, right?
Well, it's the United States.
But it wasn't called that before, until they arrived in.
No, there's multiple names. So they you bring up a great point, right? This is the Encyclopedia Britannica, and we'll look up American because you brought up a great point. This is page 134. It says, and I'll hand this to you when I'm done. America, one of the 4 parts of the world, and by much the largest. Although it is said to have taken its name from Americus Vespucci, a Florentine, it seems indisputable that it was first discovered by Christopher Columbus. Right? Then it continues to say, unless some conjectures more ancient be admitted, it was first visited by a Carthaginian fleet who afterwards settled in Mexico. So when you look up Carthaginians, they're Moors, right? And they said if more ancient conjectures would be admitted, meaning if they just told the truth, it would already be revealed that we were already here. Then you can literally just Google search ancient Quranic manuscripts found by the University of Rhode Island, and you'll see where Professor Ivan Yurisco of the University of Rhode Island stated that they found ancient Quranic manuscripts that predate Christopher Columbus by 900 years. And then you'll cross-reference that with the Prime Minister of Turkey, who also said that we've been here before Christopher Columbus. And you'll see in this book, since it's an old book, the S's look like F's. Take pictures, show your friends.
Have you gone over the, I'm not sure if transliteration is the proper term, the.
So why don't they
name
just
of
tell the
word in
truth?
America.
Yeah, remind me to do that later.
Okay.
Why don't they just tell the truth?
Just tell the truth.
Because it doesn't benefit them. Right? So if we're trying to, if we set up a colony in China, control them, but it's their land, we need to teach them that, no, you're yellow people, not Chinese. This ain't China, this is whatever the fuck we want it, whatever we want to call it. We're the real Chinese people, you're yellow people. Once we convince them to give up who they are, well then we're in control. Right? So, back to status, right? So to trick the indigenous people, they established the General Education Board in 1902. Right?
Yep.
Rewrote history and lied, stating that the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868. It was not. So, kind of go back to what we went over a little bit last time.
Why is it important?
I specified how so-called black people and so-called Indian people are the same people. So to divide us, they say, well, let's say this half, we're Indians, and that half, you're black, Latino, and Hispanic, right? This half, oh, our ancestors died of smallpox. And we just believe that. Oh, yeah, it makes sense. That half, y'all are niggers from somewhere else. And half of y'all was conquered by the conquistadors. And we raped you. So now there's 3 segments of who we are. Exactly. So then they set up political traps targeted at each group, right? So for the blacks, they say 14th Amendment made you citizens. For the so-called Hispanics, they say if you want to come here, even though it's all of your land, you have to naturalize via the 14th Amendment. For the Indians, they get the Snyder Act, which is, they're playing games with these people. But anyway, let me show you this. This is the Crescent Obscured by Robert J. Allison. Your history is in this book. It talks about the Moors, not black people. That's why you don't know what your history is, right? So I'm gonna show you this picture, and I'm gonna ask you what it looks like. Matter of fact, I'll just read it to you. This is on page, I don't know what page it is. 129. All right, so I'm gonna show everyone the picture first. This picture right here. That looks like an Indian, right? Pictures that they have of Indians, that looks like an Indian. Looks like a Native American Indian, right? Oh, those savages.
Feathers and all that.
Right? Looks like those savages out here. Somehow they're savages, but they're coining money and signing documents. Can't read and write, but they're signing shit. Oh, you?
No, she does.
I'm looking. I'm new here.
You don't see the picture, right? It says, this 17th century Dutch or German portrait of a Moorish king could just as be a portrait of an American Indian ruler. Why? Because we're the same people. Then if you get a book, it's called Ancient and Modern Britons by David McRitchie on page 375. It'll specify that the native inhabitants of New England were identified as Indians and Moors. And then remember last week we went over Title 29 of the Delaware Code, subsection 106. It specified the Lenape Indians, they're formerly known as the Moors. Then, right, let's go over this document here. You were supposed to read it last time, but we forgot. This is, if you want to write HR. HR stands for House Resolution 0689. So HR 0689 is from the state of Illinois. You want to read it?
That's the treaty?
No, this is a declaration dealing with Article 4, Section 1. You want to read it, Manny, or anyone else want to volunteer? Okay, cool.
Whereas the Moorish Americans are the descendants of the Hamites, Hamites, and Canaanites, who were permitted by the old pharaohs of Kemet to traverse from East Africa and later form themselves kingdoms extending from the northwestern, southwestern, and southwestern shores of Africa, the Atlantic Islands, and the present-day continental America. And whereas the indigenous Moorish of the Americas are now united in order to again link themselves with the family of nations, and whereas the Moorish Americans, being aboriginal to the territories of North, Central, and South America, have formed a sovereign theocratic government by the command of principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice through the virtue of the universal right to self-determination, as well as with the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples guaranteed in the Charter. And whereas on January 8, 1886, Noble Drew Ali was born in the state of North Carolina, destined to become the first patriot of his mentally enslaved Moorish people. In 1912, he was El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali by the leaders of Egypt and the holy city of Mecca to return to the United States. As the last prophet and founding father of the newly risen nation of Moorish Americans, as a result of the 13th Amendment, Moorish people were emancipated from slavery.
Stop. It said who was emancipated from slavery?
Moorish
people. It don't say blacks. Didn't it earlier just said the Moors were aboriginal and indigenous to North, South, and Central America?
True.
Right? Then it said the ancient pharaohs of Egypt permitted us to establish kingdoms here.
True.
The nouns were weird.
So ancient and modern, we're here. Continue, please.
Moorish people were emancipated from slavery in 1865. Therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 97th General Assembly of the State of Illinois that we designate the week of January 8th to the 15th, 2012 as Moorish American Week in the state of Illinois.
So this is the same thing from the state of Georgia. So pass this around, take pictures, show your friends, show your mom, show your dad, show your cat and your dog. Right? Also, to help reinforce that, right? Even if our people don't want to believe a word that I say, right? About how we're indigenous. Even though they'll say that they're the original Asiatic black man, but they don't want to claim to be original to here for some reason. We'll do this. This is a draft of the Inter-American Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. This is section 1, the definition of indigenous people, right? So it says that in this declaration, indigenous people are those who embody historical continuity with societies which existed prior to the conquest and settlement of their territories by Europeans, as well as peoples brought in voluntarily to the New World who freed themselves and cultures from which they've been torn. So even if you believe you were brought here on a slave ship, even though they haven't found any, but they found Egyptian ships that are 3,000 years old, even if you believe that, you're still an indigenous person. Can't even escape your own identity. Feel free to pass this around. Take pictures, show your friends, show your mom, your cat, your dog, and your goldfish too. Right? Now, to support that, Google search Olmec, O-L-M-E-C. And you'll see modern archaeologists, although they're lying, specify that the Olmecs are at least 2,000 years old. You'll see them with big noses, big lips. You'll see something wrapped around their head. You'll see something above that, and you'll see a little tassel hanging down. Right? Any questions so far? Great. So, they lied. Aboriginal and indigenous people, Negro, black, colored, Hispanic, Ethiopian, etc. Who's familiar with the Dred Scott case? The Dred Scott case, you can literally just Google search Dred Scott decision, Dred Scott versus Stanford, and you'll see where it specifies that blacks, and two, we're indigenous here, so we can't be citizens of a European colony. But they have you thinking, well, slavery was bad and we're trying to do good by these people and we're trying to incorporate, we're trying to assimilate them into our society. Right? So they'll say, okay, the Supreme Court was wrong at that time in the Dred Scott case. So we corrected our ways and we ratified the 14th Amendment in 1868. So that's how they're gaining citizenship over our people. Any questions so far? Great. This, you can literally search this document from the Library of Congress. Take a picture, show your friends, your cat, your dog, your goldfish, show your tomatoes. Show everybody. This is the proceedings and debates of the 90th Congress, first session, volume 113, part 12, June 12, 1967, page 15641. Watch how complicated this is. This is page 15641, June 13th, 1967, Congressional Record, House of Representatives. The 14th Amendment is unconstitutional. Any questions?
How?
How what?
Constitutional.
I'll read it to
It
you.
explains it.
The purported 14th Amendment, remember, this is Congress, not me. Right? It's not my opinion. This is not Jamal.com, Jamal.gov, Jamal'sBelief.net. This is from the United States Congress. The Amendment is unconstitutional. The purported 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution is and should be held ineffective, invalid, and unconstitutional for the following reasons. 1. The joint resolution proposing said amendment was not submitted to or adopted by a constitutional Congress. See Article 1, Section 3 and Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution. The joint resolution was not submitted to for his approval. See Article 1, Section 7. The proposed 14th Amendment was rejected by more than 1/4 of all the states then in the Union, and it was never ratified by 3/4 of all the states in the Union. See Article 5. Peace, Will. Right? Then if you turn the page to 15642, it specifies that Texas rejected the 14th Amendment October 27, 1866. Notice how it's 1967, so they're telling you 10 years later. Because they already know people have been forgotten. They already know 1967, Martin Luther King Jr. is giving you a speech, so you ain't paying attention.
That's what they did.
You ain't paying attention. Martin Luther King said, all right, I'm a dream. What the fuck color of my skin won't matter no more. And what the hell yeah? Congress is telling you, hey, bro. Congratulations, you played yourself. Another one, right? Georgia rejected the 14th Amendment on November 9th, 1866. Florida rejected the 14th Amendment on December 6th, 1866. Alabama rejected the 14th Amendment on December 7th, 1866. North Carolina rejected the 4th Amendment on December 14th, 1866. Arkansas rejected the 14th Amendment on December 17th, 1866. South Carolina rejected the 14th Amendment on December 20th, 1866. I thought the Southerners were people that were trying to put us in slavery. Oh shit, someone lied. Kentucky rejected the 14th Amendment on January 8th, 1867. Whose birthday is that? Probably no Charlie. Oh shit, imagine that. Virginia rejected the 14th Amendment on January 9th, 1867. Louisiana rejected the 14th Amendment on February 6th, 1867. Delaware rejected the 14th Amendment on February 7th, 1867. Maryland rejected the 14th Amendment on March 23rd, 1867. Mississippi on January 31st, 1867. Ohio rejected the 14th Amendment on January 15th, 1868. New Jersey rejected the 14th Amendment on March 24th, 1868. So not only is the prison industrial complex flooded with our people based on the acquisition of jurisdiction based on the 14th Amendment, but so is every unconstitutional ICE prison camp. Because remember, the entire United States Citizenship and Immigration Services is predicated on the Naturalization Act, which is predicated on the 14th Amendment. So all these so-called Hispanic people, all these so-called immigrants that are native to the continents of America, North, South, Central, and the islands, should not be detained by ICE based on this. Not my feelings because, oh no, we're all fucking people and we all have rights. No, because the United States Congress said the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional. So while they're destroying families in the name of they're violating the law, they're violating the law. But to get you distracted, they say it's racism. Oh, they just don't like them. Build a wall. There's been a border there. What are you talking about?
Man's law or God's law?
Huh?
Man's or
Both. So feel free to pass this around, show your friends. If you know anyone dealing with ICE, show them that. And you can literally type in uscis.gov and look up their laws on naturalization, and you'll see 14th Amendment. Hence, status is the first issue at law. Now, if you don't know that, it's assumed you're a citizen. And then they proceed to jurisdiction over your person. Right? Because the second issue in law is jurisdiction. Jurisdiction over the person, which is predicated on your mental competence and your citizenship. Right? And then jurisdiction over the subject matter, which is either civil or criminal. And commerce is under civil. Anyone telling you otherwise is lying to you. Right? So you have personam jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, which is the classification of law, whether it's a crime or a civil issue. Then you have, you also have land jurisdiction, air jurisdiction, sea jurisdiction. Right? So since we already established that Rhode Island wasn't even founded, or Providence wasn't even founded until 1663 or 1662, right? We read the resolution from Georgia that specified we've been here. So they don't have territorial jurisdiction over this land, because the name of this land is not Rhode Island.
It's not against.
The name of this land is not Providence. You'll go to the end of Broad Street, right where the McDonald's is, and that nail salon. You'll see a plaque in the bank, Citizens Bank, I think Citizens Bank. There's two banks there, whatever. You'll see a plaque there, and it says incorporated or founded 1662, incorporated 1860 something. Which means this is new. Right? And then when you cross-reference that with Luther versus whatever I said earlier, Borden or whatever, you'll see where they say the American colonies, the colony of Rhode Island, the colony of Massachusetts, because they're colonies. Right? So that's how they're claiming jurisdiction over our people. That's how they're able to flood the prison industrial complex of our people. And that's how they're able to shove innocent men, women, and children into ICE detention camps. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Under the West, I'm a criminal, right? Well, based on what I've been through.
Yeah.
I've been in this system, I'm a criminal, so how am I possibly a criminal if none of these things are jurisdictions over me?
Because you haven't made that argument.
Hold on, okay.
Yeah. That's it?
So, are you telling me right now, possibly that they make my claim as a born African, these are all wiped out based on there's no jurisdiction over me?
So they but we're also dealing with the issue of continued colonization and how we don't have a government. Because look around in this room. You're the Moorish government. And you're just now learning that you're a Moor. You see how many, you know what I mean, how deep this problem is and how much work we have to put in, instead of just thinking about, okay, how can I benefit from this? I'm not saying you're not wrong for thinking that way. I just want you to see the bigger problem.
Yeah.
But
Good?
I'm actually Lenape, Indian, actually. This is my first meeting, and
Yeah.
we never talk about anything about the Moors. So that's how far behind we are. Like, I have no idea. My grandfather was chief for 16 years.
Yeah.
Never mentioned it.
So can you pull up Google, please? She said she's in Lenape, right? Watch how beautiful this is. Google search Title 29 of the Delaware Code.
Is that what you sent me? I think I
Law governs all events. It's amazing. Title 29, and then look up subsection 106. 1 and 2, follow along if you want.
You said 106?
Yes. And it specifies its jurisdiction and sovereignty, right?
I'm still waiting for it.
Okay. You got that bodega internet. The cat's on the router. Sleeping.
The cat's on the router.
Yeah, blocking the signals.
Subsection 1. I think that's what you said in the language.
You got it? What does it say? If you don't mind, please read the whole thing.
Yeah, no problem. The Lenape Indian Tribe of Delaware Recognition. Legislative findings, the General Assembly finds all of the following. The Lenape Indian Tribe of Delaware, referred to as the tribe in this section, has an unbroken history of hundreds of years of settlement and continued residency in the vicinity of the town of Chessville in Kent County. Members of the tribe preserved, displayed, and manifested close cultural ties with one another by conducting themselves in such a social economic manner as to identify themselves as being culturally and ethnically distinct. The tribe can date their ancestral ties as far back as the early 1700s. The tribe was formerly known as the Moors.
Say that one more time.
The tribe was formerly known as the Moors.
One more time.
The tribe was formerly known as the Moors.
Okay, so now I have a question.
Mhm.
If my name is Jamal, then in formal settings, that's how you're going to address me, right? In an informal setting, you'll probably say, hey, bro, right? So now, which one's my real name? Bro or Jamal? Jamal. That would be my formal name. So if their formal identity is the Moors, then what is their identity?
The Moors.
So now, that supports House Resolution 0689 and House Resolution 1203, specifying that Moors are aboriginal and indigenous to North, South, Central America, and the islands.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me that like
Right?
we don't talk about it at all.
Exactly.
Like we
It's not
don't
supposed
even
to
know
come out.
like at all. We're like even religious wise.
Yeah.
Very, very lost. I love them. But
Yeah.
It's very lost.
Yeah.
So it would be great to, go back to the original.
Show them that.
Yeah, you gotta start
You know,
somewhere.
Right, so there's a whole. I'm not gonna get into that. Any other questions? No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Not doing it.
So how do they get us to
Do
volunteer?
it.
God damn it! Now I gotta do it. 'Cause you asked me
I
a
say,
question.
man, come on.
God. All right.
Don't ask me.
Here's why a lot of Indians don't know who they really are. Here's an example. I always gotta be the bad guy.
I volunteered that I'm here, that I came here on behalf of whatever.
I kind of like being the bad guy. It's funny. All right. I've seen it up there. Found it. Judy, you're a op. You heard me.
Well, I also have a very important question, but I'm gonna wait for you to.
All right. So if you don't know, we're still dealing with status, right? Because law and history go together, and if you don't know anything, which is your mental competence, then it's gonna be assumed that you're a U.S. citizen and that they have jurisdiction over you under the status of a ward, right? Someone spell ward. W-A-R-D, right? The Bureau of Indian Affairs was established under the War Department. Spell ward again. Oh, shoot. What are the first three letters of ward? Oh, crap. Right? Then, so the same thing that they did to blacks and said, oh, 14th Amendment made you citizens? The same thing that the so-called Indians is saying the Snyder Act of 1924 made you citizens of the United States. But if you go to caselaw.findlaw.com or Justia, whatever, or case, I think it's like casetext.law or something like that.
Yeah.
Just Google search Indian wards. and you'll see case law after 1924, after the Snyder Act, specifying that the relationship between the United States and its Indian wards has never changed. It hasn't, because if you're told, right, your name's Joseph, right? If I show up and say, oh man, I'm looking for Christopher, you're Christopher now, and you start
I'm incompetent.
exactly, because if you identifying as it, like Christopher Columbus came and said, oh, you're it now, knowing that you're not. So to identify as it would mean you're incompetent. So a ward is either an infant or a person with an unsound mind. So exactly. So if you start identifying as something that you're not, that you know you're not, then you have an unsound mind. It's not personal. It's not.
Just like Latinos say the so-called Latinos say the Latino, there's no Latino land.
Yeah.
Just like undeclared Moors say that they're black, there's no black land. You know?
Exactly. Right. So nothing about this is hatred. It's showing you how they have us emotionally triggered to respond to things a certain way, which is what they taught us how to respond to it. You ever heard of MK Ultra? Right? Or the Manchurian Candidate, where they give you a code word and then activate you. So if I call you a nigger, you're gonna respond a certain way because I taught you to respond that way. It's mind control, right? Then I have U.S. patents on different things like. Never mind. Let me go into this because we can go down a rabbit hole that's just.
Yeah.
So this is why a lot of Indians, quote unquote Indians, don't know their true identity. So you know how like they show you in the slave movies how there's a house nigger, right? And his responsibility is basically overseer over the field niggers, right? Or an Uncle Tom. So it's the same thing with these Indians. It's just they get the grand old title of chief.
Oh, they get benefits.
Right? So, and this isn't against anyone personally, this is just the record here for this land. And if you look at other pieces of land, you'll see something similar. Right? So this is, and you can just Google search this. This is not something hidden where you got to go to the Vatican, right? And then you got to go under the Vatican. And then you got to kiss the Pope's ring 3 times. And you got to lick his foot. Then you got to give a drop of your DNA, get a retina scan. And you got to, scalp yourself a little bit and put it in the archives and then blow the books off, blow the dust off of shit. It's just Google search. Right? So it ain't that deep. This is the Joint Memorandum of Understanding of 1978. So the word memorandum means to remind. So this is just a reminder, just in case you get out of hand, right? This is what it says. It says, all parties to the Narragansett Tribe of Indians versus the Southern Rhode Island Land Department Company and others. A state chartered corporation, quote unquote, the state corporation, will be created with an irrevocable charter for the purpose of acquiring, managing, and permanently holding the lands defined in section 2 and 3 below, the settlement lands. The state corporation will be controlled by a board of directors, the majority whose members will be chosen by a Rhode Island corporation known as Narragansett Tribe of Indians. Wait a minute. I thought Rhode Island was chartered in 1886. So how can you be a Rhode Island corporation known as the Narragansett Tribe of Indians, but you're claiming Aboriginal and autochthonous immemorial claim to this land, to something that was created in the 1800s?
So it's already established.
What year was that?
That's crazy.
So the memorandum is 1978 based on the 1880 roll. That was the original sellout. So this is just a reminder in 1978 of that sellout, that you're not an Aboriginal group of people, you're a Rhode Island corporation known as the Narragansett Tribe of Indians. Because this is not Narragansett, it's Nahegansett. Look it up. Right? The Indian Corporation. They don't say an Indian tribe, Indian indigenous people. It says an Indian Corporation. Because it's based off of the War Department. So the state of Rhode Island is reminding its wards of their agreement.
Oh, Indian. There's already incompetence
Right.
there.
That the state of Rhode Island will contribute the Indian Cedar Swamp, the Indian Burial Hill, the land around Deep Pond, and an assessment from King's Factory Road to Watchacog Pond to the state corporation. These public proportions of the settlement lands total approximately 900 acres. Federal legislation shall be obtained that eliminates all Indian claims of any kind. Remember, this is just them reminding them. Whether possessory, well, we used to have it. Monetary, well, I bought it. Involving land in Rhode Island. Remember, this is not the name of the land. So that's how they're acquiring jurisdiction over the land, by naming it something else. Just like in the movie Roots or whatever, where he said, you're not Kunta Kinte no more, you're Toby. Establishment of jurisdiction over that person. Same thing with the land. This is not Narragansett, it's Rhode Island. So now when they ask you, what state are you part of? That's like asking, who's your slave master? Well, I'm from the so-and-so plantation. Well, I'm a citizen of Rhode Island. It's the same thing. Right? That the settlement land shall be subject to special federal restriction against alienation. Meaning it don't matter what you think about you being Indian. The federal government is not giving this back to you. Right? Provided that nothing in the federal restriction or in any other aspect of this memorandum shall be of the state corporation to grant or otherwise convey, whether voluntary or involuntary, including any eminent domain or condemnation proceedings, easements for public or private purposes. So there's a story where my cousin was with this girl, and her father was a so-called Narragansett Indian. The state wanted to build something on his property. He said, well, no, because I'm a Narragansett Indian, you know what, I'm here. Guess what they did? They said, oh yeah, eminent domain, get out. That's what they agreed to. So you can't get mad, right?
Claim to be an
Because that's what they agreed to.
Because they claim to be an Indian. Yeah.
That's
You
what the
can't-
agreement
You
is,
can't do that.
right? That the settlement land will be held in trust by the state corporation for the benefit of the descendants of the 1880 Rhode Island Narragansett roll. That's why they always claim, well, my so-and-so was the great chief of the sellout. Because they get the benefit from being a sellout. That's why when you wake up and you realize that you're from here, you have to submit to them. They have to recognize you because of their agreement with the state. They're the house nigger in charge. So they have to pacify you. That's their job. This is the agreement. That's what it says. Right? Hold on, before you ask your question. The settlement lands will not be subject to local property tax. That's their only benefit. The state corporation will have the right, after consultation with appropriate state officials, meaning with permission from these Europeans, to establish its own regulations concerning hunting and fishing on the settlement lands without being subject to state regulations. But notice how they say with state's permission. But shall impose minimum standards for safety of persons and protection of wildlife and fish stock. All settlement lands contributed by the state will be permanently held for the conservation purposes of the state corporation. That except as otherwise specified in this memorandum, all laws of the state of Rhode Island shall be in full force and effect on settlement land. So remember, when the Indians weren't paying taxes, remember, and the state police kicked down their doors and they had that case in Rhode Island? It was all over the news. They were like, oh, why? They weren't paying taxes, but this is their right to do that. This is their land. So this is a whole public mockery. Oh, no, you're treating Indians unfairly. They already agreed that Rhode Island European colonial laws will apply to them and their people. So why are you mad? If I say you can smack the fuck out of me every day at 5 o'clock, and y'all see it, y'all can't get mad. That's what I agreed to. So if they agreed, and you'll see, just go on YouTube and look this up. You'll see where they're fighting, they're acting like they're fighting, right? Oh man, the state trooper's choking them, but he's suffering, he's just, oh no, let me go. Like, you obviously ain't getting choked. And then in court, the Indians had a European attorney. How you got a colonist represent the tribe? How? Someone please explain that to me.
They're not kind of
A conflict of interest?
Yeah, that's a conflict.
You're a colonist oppressing you, but you're gonna represent the court because they sold out, right? And then I'll show you their signature. It says Narragansett Tribe of Indians by their attorney, Native American. Thomas sound like a native name to you? Oh. Pass this around, show your friends. Take pictures. But wait, oh no, Jamal, that's from 1880 and that's from 1978. That don't apply today. Silly goose. Right? Ha! Okay. January 4th, 2016. Oh, shoot. Mr. Raymond Watson. Dear Mr. Watson, it gives me great pleasure to appoint you to the Outdoor Recreation Council to Executive Order 16-01 to serve at the pleasure of the governor. So wait a minute. Time out. Hold on.
Hold on,
Wait.
Oh,
Hold on.
okay.
So, colonists came here. You believe that they murdered your people with smallpox and diseases. You believe that they raped your ancestors. You know, the Great Swamp Massacre.
Trail of Tears.
Right? They kicked in your doors for you not paying taxes. But you're going to recognize a colonist authority to appoint you to a position. Don't that sound like the sellout I just read?
Wasn't he on a commercial for? Never mind.
Yo, I know him personally, and that's crazy.
But wait, there's more.
Right? That, you said Ray Watson?
Yeah, Raymond L. Watson, two hosts. That's who Westwood. A lot of people know him. He's the chief. Remember, he's the chief from his great whoever who was also the chief from 1880. Oh, so look,
Oh, man.
Nestle Wesselwanog, commercially known as Raymond L. Watson. Time out. Wasn't slavery commerce of flesh of human beings?
Mm-hmm.
I thought slavery was abolished. So how can you be someone but commercially known as someone else? That would mean you're someone's product. 1880 roll.
That's like the free national name against the strong.
That's Kunta Kinte versus Toby.
You versus you.
Nah, it's who you are versus what your master wants you to be.
Yeah.
Right? And then if you watch his videos, you'll see where he admitted to the paper genocide of our people, changing our names on birth certificates, which the birth certificate is a commercial instrument for slavery predicated on the 14th Amendment. And you'll notice how he signed in ink, which signifies the blood of the living person, the natural person. They know this information, but they're not going to tell you, because then they can't be the chief over all of you. Get it? You get it? We get it? We tracking? It's a sellout. A sellout. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they claim that they're not the Pacific group of Indians. All Indians are wards of the United States. Period. So that's dealing with status. From the Snyder Act of fake citizenship to the 14th Amendment status of fake citizenship to the Naturalization Act of fake citizenship, all the way down to us being prosecuted in state court under the guise of we're citizens and our people being deported and held unconstitutionally in ICE based on the 14th Amendment.
So, historically, the United States government allowed a lot of Europeans and Asians to pay $5 to then call themselves Indians. Is that so they could have like that naturalization or citizenship?
Yeah. Everything that they do is to set up the trick. You know what I'm saying? So they're saying, oh yeah, you're indigenous people. Okay, well if you just identify as Indian, we'll give you some type of benefits. That's selling out. So you know how the Bible says, you know, you gave up your birthright for a pot of porridge or whatever? You gave up your entire right to govern yourself for Indian bullshit. You gave up the right to govern yourself for 14th Amendment citizenship bullshit. Any other questions based on anything I said so far?
What could the Indians do?
No, you go.
What could the Indians do to change that?
Nationalize and stop identifying as Indians because they're not. And you'll see, I've had conversations with Two Hawks, and he said out of his own mouth, he's not an Indian. But then he'll go publicly and say he's an Indian. So how are you something and not at the same time?
That's an alias.
Yeah, but the politics involved is if you identify as one, you're subject to them.
Playing both sides.
You know what I'm saying? You can't play both sides.
No, it's happening right now. We have a very corrupt chief who actually just paid a bunch of people from another town to enter to vote for him instead of someone else who was original to the tribe.
I can almost
Now,
guarantee
in the
you.
middle of a huge mess.
I can almost guarantee you, if you look up the paperwork, you'll see something similar to that. It's almost guaranteed. There's always a paper trail. Any other questions?
What is it?
So just in general, if we just, me as a Lenape, right?
Yeah.
My name would be my native name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is what I usually
That's how you would
identify.
identify yourself.
Right, that's how I feel and that's how I
Yeah.
do usually identify myself.
Yeah.
And I would just, in general, get rid of the identity that was the American identity.
It's United States. So America and the United States are two different things.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So
United
also try to
States.
separate that
right,
because you are an American.
right.
You're not a United States citizen.
Okay, yes.
You know what I mean? You have rights to the American continent.
All
You
right.
know what I'm saying? That they did not name. You know what I'm saying? And there's more information behind more science as far as going from, doing your name correction on the common law name change and leaving certain things as it is because of the state of our people at large. You know what I mean? So doing things as an individual, you might get small victories, but we need to unite politically. The same way that the Indians are united quasi-politically, we need to be united politically. So as opposed to, because you know how they have separate Indian schools and things like that? That was created in 1740 with the first Great Awakening, where Indians and blacks were identifying as proud Christians. So even the schooling system is chartered by the people that's oppressing us, which is why we're doing these classes. So from us organizing politically, we choose who we want amongst ourselves to represent our tribe politically, as opposed to someone who sold out. And ensuring that that person is representing us properly based on the actual history that we're getting.
Is there like laws specifically as a more like that we are governed by?
Yes,
Like, so
there's 5 of them. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
So nothing specifically written. It's just,
I mean, we have treaties with the United States, but since we're not enforcing that, it's as if it doesn't apply.
so we're basically free if we know our rights.
Yes.
Able to-
So as an individual, yes, but collectively we're considered stateless because we haven't organized, came together, and formed a government. You know what I'm saying? We're still the same people, it's just we're not organized.
So we are waiting to connect our power so that we can actually.
Yeah, and this is the first step. You know what I mean? Any other questions? All right, so now, every time you walk into a courtroom, they know everything I just told you.
But they pretend they don't.
Of course.
Especially the state troopers,
Every single one of them.
police, they'll pretend that they don't know. Oh, you got the fez on. Oh, I see that.
They just
Oh,
get
I see that.
tripped up
Indian.
because they just throw everybody through the ringer and it's a very well-oiled system. So once somebody goes against the grain, they try to play games with you like, oh no, but this is what you have to do because this is how it normally goes. But I'm not a United States citizen. It's not how it goes.
We're also attached to our labels. So like
Exactly.
we're Ramapo Lenape and that's how we identify.
Yeah.
And people don't want to let that go and they see
Yeah.
that as a negative thing.
But you don't have to let it go. You're formerly known as Moors.
Exactly. So technically I could just keep it the same.
Yeah, just like Rhode Island and Massachusetts are different, but they're the same people. They're colonists. But they just choose to identify as something specific to their political group. That's all it is. So we say, oh yeah, we're not against it, but we're not against it Moors. So just record Indian with Moor, and there you go, you won. You get what I'm saying? Just like the Lenape are Indians. Well, the Narragansetts Indians. Don't say that. The Lenape are Moors, and the Narragansett are Moors. Cool. That's half the battle. You get it? That easy. So, do we have this written down?
Yes.
Right, so I just went over status, right? Which that document of the 1880 roll, that's an example of status. Because based on that status, the state of Rhode Island, which is a colony, see Luther versus Borden, has jurisdiction over you if you claim the identity Indian based on that agreement, that status. Right? So since they do that, peace, luck, they get jurisdiction over your person, peace, which is the second issue at law. Then they, since you're in Rhode Island, they're claiming land jurisdiction. Then they say, well, since you're in Rhode Island and you're a citizen of Rhode Island, well, we can adjudicate. We have subject matter jurisdiction over whatever issue at law. Understand that so far? Easy, right? So also, if you go to 1 Dorrance Plaza, the courthouse, you'll see in that parking lot, it'll say Portuguese consulate. Want to know why? Because Portuguese are not citizens of the United States. So they have their own government. That's why you don't see them in 6th District Court. They go to federal court because they're not citizens. Which is dealing with Article 3 of the Constitution, Section 2. Anyone volunteer to read this? Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution. But before you read that, let me go over this. This is Article 6. It says, all debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And that the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state, to the contrary, notwithstanding. Meaning, if any law of any colonial state violates this document, it's null and void and has no effect. Article 3, please. Section 1 and Section 2.
Judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under
Pause. Law and equity. What's equity?
Fairness.
Fairness. Yeah.
arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority to all cases affecting ambassadors, other
Hold on.
public.
You finished Section 1, right?
Oh, this is, you said Section 2.
No, sorry, I apologize. Please read Section 1 first.
Okay. The judicial power of the United States shall be invested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges both of the Supreme and inferior courts shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office.
So, they're specifying that there's one Supreme Court, right? Created by the Congress. And inferior courts, meaning the circuit courts of appeals and the different federal courts such as the United States District Court for the District of Rhode Island, the United States District Court for the District of the Eastern Massachusetts, the United States District Court for the District of Central Massachusetts, the United States District Court for the District of Western Massachusetts. Those are all federal courts. Right? So now that's the venue. Section 2 deals with the jurisdiction of those venues. Good? Any questions on what I just said so far?
Continue on from the top.
Any questions?
Say that again. Say that one more time.
I'll give a quick example. Let's say we're Congress, right? And we're trying to establish a court, right? We'll say, this building shall be known as the Supreme Court. And any other building around the block that we ordain and establish shall be similar to this court. Right? So that's just saying what it is. Section 2 is dealing with powers those courts have. So go ahead, please.
One of Section 2, the judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States.
So pause right there. So let me see. You heard where it said, the judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution and the laws of the United States? That in law is called raising the federal question. The word federal means contract. Guess what this is? The Constitution is a contract between the original 13 colonies. So if you have any questions to their laws, you go to their federal courts. Continue, please.
And treaties made, or which shall be made, under their authority. So all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state,
Which is diversity. Continue.
between citizens of different states,
Which is diversity of citizenship.
of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof.
Stop right there. Between a state and the citizens thereof.
What's a state?
A group of people bound together by common law. So now, if we're a state, and I'm a judge, and it's a state of versus you, I have no jurisdiction to hear that. Because it's a conflict of interest.
Okay, a statement. a
You
state-
put me in power.
That's crazy.
So every time you go to court and it's state of Rhode Island versus you, guess what they just did?
Violate the Constitution.
Violated the Constitution. That all of them take an oath to. But guess what? They know you went to their John D. Rockefeller Education Board school and you don't know shit. So guess what? Jurisdiction is assumed. Go to court and just sit there. And you'll see. 90% of the people that go in, pay a fine, take a deal, and leave.
It's easy.
And you'll hear the judge say, do you understand that you waive your right to trial by jury? And all people say, yes. The judge will say, do you understand that you waive your right to ensure that the state proves beyond a reasonable doubt that you did A, B, C, D, and E? And all people will say, yeah. So we just gave up our rights. Because they ask you, I've been there, they ask you every time. So we're talking about, oh, the courts are corrupt. But they're asking you, do you waive all of your rights? And our people say, yes. So who's at fault? The criminal for being a criminal? Or you for saying, hey, criminal, can you watch my gold, please?
I'm finesse.
Hey, criminal, can you watch my precious gems? Hey, criminal, can you hold $10,000 for me? Hold that for me. And then the guy's like, hey, you understand I'm a criminal, right? You say, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. You understand I'm going to run off on the plug twice, right? You say, oh, yeah, yeah, go ahead. Continue, please.
State with claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects.
Say that one more time. The state and foreign citizens or subjects, right?
Yep.
So if the colony of Rhode Island was established in the early 1800s, chartered in 1600s, and we were here before that, that means it's diversity of citizenship, right? Because we would be citizens of a already established government. So should we be in their state courts?
No.
No, because it's diversity of citizenship. Can someone Google diversity of citizenship, please? And everyone, actually, please. I'll participate. Google search, right? It's easy. Diversity of citizenship.
Diversity of citizenship refers to the cases where opposing parties involved in the lawsuit are citizens of a different state or country.
A different state or country, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, isn't this our country for Aboriginal Indigenous here, right? So the Pilgrims, the Europeans, the Peregrinus, the so-called white man, are they from here?
No.
Which means this ain't their country, right?
Right.
And they told us they're Pilgrims, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they told us. So this ain't their country. So aren't we citizens of a different country?
Yep.
Right in the Constitution. Right? Now, to cross-reference that, so you know how it says the laws of the Constitution and the laws of the United States made in pursuance thereof? So the issue of diversity in the federal question is dealing with United States Code, Title 28, subsection 1331, which is raising the federal question, which is challenging. So if we go to court, right, and we challenge that the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional, we're raising the federal question. So we would have to be in federal court, even if you think you're black. Because you're challenging your relationship to the European colony, known as the United States or the state of Rhode Island.
Relationship.
Right? And if any laws of the state of Rhode Island saying, like, as an example, you need a license for marijuana, well, 24 of the rights of indigenous people says I don't. So now I'm challenging your law, federal question.
What if we already engaged in a contract?
And then that's what you did. But you can argue that it was an unconscionable contract. And you can also argue that a contract that is void from the beginning cannot be made voidable. It's just void. Also, that name is not me. That says Toby. I'm Kuta Kinte, so I don't know what you want. You know what I'm saying? So there's always a way out. You just have to do this. Mental competence, right? And then the word M-E-N has to do with the male gender. The word M-E-N means to think. That's what it means by definition. Right? That's why it says all men are born free and equal. All thinkers are born free and equal. Not all male gender beings. Right? So pull out your phone again, because I'm prove to you that it means to think. It's not gender.
All who
Go to ETYMONLINE.com. It's etimononline.com. ETYMONLINE.com. And then type in MEN, and then someone read it. We'll be Hebrew Israelites today. Read! Yelling in your face.
It's like a Proto-Indo-European.
Yeah.
So that's
So, do we know what Proto-Indo-European means?
Before the European.
Gosh, for darn it, not you!
That was two.
I'm asking the new Moors. No one heard him, right? So, do we know what Proto-Indo-European means? The word proto, as in prototype, means before. Indo means amongst, and then European's obviously European. So before the common family of European languages, there was something else. And all of them stem from that root, which is our language. So the word men in our language means what? To think.
They don't want that.
Of course not. That's why they put the emotional argument of, oh, only white men are the free people. You don't know what men means.
you know what white means. What
You don't know
black
what white means. You know what I'm saying? So all men are born free and equal. All thinkers are born free and equal. Get it? So,
We don't call our children.
exactly, because they're not goats. So, Article 3, Section 1 and 2 translates to Title 28 of the United States Code, subsection 1331, which is raising the federal question, and subsection 1332, which is raising the issue of diversity of citizenship. Right? So, to support that, look up Act of State Doctrine. Act of State Doctrine. Let me know when you got it. You got it? Got quick with it. Not you. Well, you got a question?
No, I know what it is.
Can you? What is wrong with you?
They
You want-
can save their phone data.
You want detention with Juju? What's up?
I'm good.
What I do?
You already got detention. Stop adding to it. Both of you.
I got suspended.
Go see the principal. We on active state doctrine?
Does Wikipedia suffice?
Absolutely. So Wikipedia, if you scroll down to Wikipedia, you'll see references, and you'll see where there's an actual case law where they're referencing what they're talking about pursuant to that actual case. Right? So, someone volunteer to read?
I'll read it.
Good.
The Act of State Doctrine or Foreign Act of State Doctrine is a principle in English and United States law which states that every sovereign state is bound to respect the independence of every other sovereign state, and the courts will not sit in judgment of another government's act or acts of any sovereign national done within its own territory.
Because that's diversity of citizenship. Now, didn't the state of Georgia and the state of Illinois specify that Moorish Americans being aboriginal to the territories of North, South, and Central America have formed a sovereign theocratic government? So wouldn't that mean the United States can never, ever, ever adjudicate over any one of us? Especially since this is our land?
Is that no matter what? Like,
No matter what. No matter what. It don't matter what you're doing.
No,
You can spit on a cop.
you can't just get
No
away with that.
jurisdiction.
We have our own jurisdiction. We have
Which
our
is
own-
why we have treaties with them that specify if one of our people do something to your people, this is how we're going to deal with it. It's called
But when
consular
if
law.
our people does something, then we have to deal with it.
Could you put it in like a different, like
Easy, right? Okay.
a easier example?
Let's act like this side, we're Crips. Y'all are Bloods. Separate jurisdiction, right? But we sign an agreement. If a Crip kills a Blood or a Blood kills a Crip, our gang representatives will talk about it first. That's consular court. If a Crip has an issue with a Blood or a Blood has an issue with a Crip, our lieutenant gang leader will talk about it. That's consular court. That's why when you go to One Dorrance Plaza, you'll see Portuguese consulate. Act of state doctrine. Any questions so far?
I was just gonna say something like, for another example, is like, I can't tell you what you can do with your bike.
Yeah, it's my bike. You don't have jurisdiction.
Right.
No questions? We need a quick break.
Smoke break.
Okay. All right, before the break, how much time you need? 5, 10 minutes? 20 minutes? 10 minutes.
15 minutes.
15 minutes. All right, so before the break, this affects tickets, parking tickets, speeding tickets, DUIs, assault, murder, gun charges, drug charges, rent issues, mortgage issues, credit card issues, student loan issues, deportation issues, double parking issues, jaywalking issues, your hair is braided issues, you got dreads at the corporate job issues, taxes, state taxes, federal taxes, income taxes, property taxes, excise car taxes.
So any law,
You going to the store and buying shit, you trying to establish your own business, you trying to be an entrepreneur, you trying to get a job, all of that affects all of that. All right, 15-minute break. We'll be back in 15 minutes. So at 4:20. Oh, imagine that.
Damn.
Clutch. Law governs all events. Loud governs all events.
Now you speak about it.
Yeah.
That's water. Of course it did. Of course it did. Oh, my dog.
I poisoned you.
Manny's Ali in the building. Yep. El Mayo Bay. Mayo Bay. El Mayo Bay.
That's the best deal
Manny's
ever.
Ali.
El Mayo Bay. That's the one.
What about Wonder Bay? Like Wonder Bay?
Peace, y'all. Peace.
Hey, you tell me like a brick. Hey, I see you. I see you. I'm not gonna do my stomach's out here. You ain't never coming back,
Yes. Thick like dumpling. It thick like a dumpling.
As long as it's like a baby steak. Let me take so you get some lint in your hand.
galore.
Drool. I'm just
Screaming.
crying, crying, and screaming,
Oh
and
my
screaming.
goodness.
Ah.
Yeah, Ryan's screaming.
Oh, they have
Wait,
they have something at home for
I'm a teacher right now.
for teaching
I bought like an essential oil blend, like coconut with lavender and
Uh-huh.
rosemary.
So
It's
that's
really
really
good
good.
after her. So what I have to do is get
With
full
like the
the actual
pre-marinated.
clothes and just
Yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah.
mix it with water and stuff again.
Oh,
Today I gave her essential oil and I mixed it with water, I cooked it on, she was like,
I know, yeah, it's gonna be kind of spicy for her. So, I'm gonna buy it.
I have those little bowls that have the actual school ice.
That's what, when you said that, that's what I noticed. That's what I
Pero
noticed.
que él te dijo que podías tener piernotas en la frescura.
I mean, this is the first thing that was like, well, we love.
Yes.
That's why I hate it.
They said, oh, when you cook it, it's her.
It had nothing to do with us.
Ever.
Ooh, thank
Ever.
you.
I can never really tolerate it.
You don't want her outside?
That's what she
That's
is.
what
Come on, where?
we're not gonna
I
Ay, oye, la titaje de la telenovela.
call you.
Ay, la telenovela de la niña, esta chiquitica.
I don't even know your name, I'm sorry, you're the princess.
La telenovela con el titaje.
Nicole, this is
Gordita.
Grecia Nicola.
Nice to meet you, Gracie. I saw you. I was like, yeah.
You want to go hide in the sun?
Como te gusta el titaje gordita, vamos.
Gracia, what is your name?
Anya?
Nice to meet
It's
you.
the country, Greece,
Oh,
but
Greece.
in Spanish.
Gracia, wow, that's cute.
Me la llevo a mi casa.
Oh, we gonna fight.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's square up right now. Hold the baby. Hold fire. It's 420.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm gonna get some sun.
He's that.
Even though they're blocking that from us.
Oh, yeah, it's like what sun is bigger, which sun, which
We
more.
want to talk about that. That's a whole other conversation.
That's fine, thank you.
Taking a class though? Taking a class.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to live up to the status, right, baby? Live up to the status, yes? Mi chuñinha. Mi chuñinha. Extrañaste tu tía. A tu tía era más prieta, a tu tía era más bella. Extrañaste, mujer. Sí, extrañaste. Esta tía que abandona y se va por ahí. Se va por ahí a viajar todo y te deja solita, mesquina, bella. Mesquina, bella. Esta tía tuya que te abandona, coño.
What is it called? An omnivore? We got 4 minutes. That's my name. You're an omnivore?
Yo, this food too, bro. You ain't gotta eat chips, bro. It's like food. My mom made it. That means it's blessed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, vegan as fuck. I told her what's up, and she's like, I got you. Yeah, I need that.
Right, you not stop.
I have a couple of buckets of that, bro. Yes.
I remember you.
My sister.
You came to the pop-up. Yeah. Yeah, word, respect.
You'll probably everywhere, to be honest with you. spot on my station back there.
Feel good in here though.
All the way in the back, yeah. I made sure we turned the AC on early, ain't trying to burn everything. That's that, what's that?
These ones,
What's your yield? Do you get a lot or is that a little bit?
oh, you get a lot.
Well, how big is that fucking container you got?
The container was like this.
You got like Walmart joint?
Yeah, but I got like a couple ounces out of that shit.
Yeah.
Just to the point that I just get tired of picking them. Cause I call them all out, they start coming, they keep coming back. And then
Oh, I need that.
I'll show you how to do it. It's easy.
Yeah, I need
It's
help.
shit out.
She bought some more good things?
My mom brought food, bro, food. Maybe I eat chips and shit.
No, they, oh,
Oh, the little things, the egg roll
yeah,
joints?
yeah, that's what
I should have ordered those.
I would've,
Yeah, hit her up.
I would definitely,
Hit her up. She delivers. She's always willing. You can meet her up.
we can,
Nah, you gotta hit her beforehand because she's got her shit gridded out, scheduled, like, oh, we probably just turn that off.
How you doing?
Oh, what's it? There was supposed to be more head relationship with dead people, like, bailed out. You know what I mean? But exactly, I share your same sentiment.
Waterbury.
Oh my God, it's cold in here. All right, you heathens. You'll have another one? No, normally I just buy one. But
Your costs money.
Yeah.
A quick 100 here, then 2 there.
get your glucose up. And we are back.
Hey guys, there's food here. Remember, don't forget. There's one another pineapple. Hay un mono encendido ahí atrás.
It sounds good.
420.
Wait, what did you say you had in the back of it?
Mono.
Oh.
Con una ensalada de...
Si tiene moro, okay.
Let's do it.
Is this me?
No, there's no meat in here.
Don't we get the rice and the motor?
No.
Abuelita.
Thank you.
Señorita, usted me está
Give me one plate.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, they always feel a little bit. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be bothering you like that. You know what I mean? Like you feel it, but it shouldn't be.
I understand.
What's in your place?
I understand that you love your mom and all that.
Oh man.
I know. Oh my God. Yes.
It's like.
So, how do we solve that problem? How do we solve it? You like it? No? Okay.
He's killing them. Please.
I know.
Would you say 5 o'clock or 2 o'clock?
That's fine.
I know.
Yeah.
You gotta be on the water, bro.
So it's a wrap, right?
We ready? Ready to begin?
I think we're missing a lot of people still.
Yeah, but it's 420. All right, so who here has a car? Who here pays taxes for that car? Excise car tax to the city.
Joe.
How much? Okay, I don't need to ask any personal questions, but is it more than $150? To save that money.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so this
I don't have food.
is the Constitution
I don't have food.
for the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantation.
Can I give a little piece of watermelon or something? Oh, okay.
Look at the food.
Right there. It should be in the back.
This is Article 6. Legislative power, Section 1. Constitution, supreme law of the state. It specifies that this Constitution shall be the supreme law of the state, and in any law inconsistent therewith shall be void. The General Assembly shall pass all laws necessary to carry this Constitution into effect. Any questions on that? That means that this document is the supreme law of the state of Rhode Island, right? Simple, right? This is Article 13. Home rule for cities and towns. Now, when you pay excise car tax, you pay the city, right? Okay. Article 13, Section 5. Local taxing and borrowing powers. Nothing contained in this article shall be deemed to grant any city or town the power to levy, assess, and collect taxes. Any questions? Oh, I got you, bro. Nothing contained in this article shall be deemed to grant to any city or town the power to levy, assess, and collect taxes, or to borrow money, except as authorized by the General Assembly. Excuse me.
Yeah, thank you.
So, who in here pays excise car tax to the city? Just put it over there.
You guys don't finance a car?
And what did the Constitution just say of Rhode Island?
They don't have the right to do it.
That they can't do that.
Yeah.
So why are you paying excise? Because they said they're a taxpayer.
Yeah.
You just got a new whip. I want some money. You owe me this. And you said, all right, because you called me a taxpayer. And it said failure to pay this, there will be X, Y, and Z amount of fines or possibly jail time. So you said, oh, whoa, here's the money, bro.
What if he chooses not to pay?
Don't do that. If they write you a letter, you owe the city taxes, you can say, okay, hold on. According to Rhode Island Constitution, Article 13, Section 5, it says you can't do that. So why are you trying to collect taxes from me? And then let them answer. Because then, hold on, because then when they respond, now they're responding with a written response. Which you can then take that to federal court and say, hey, look, they violated Article 13, Section 5 of Rhode Island State Constitution, and this is their response. Here's proof that they did it. Right? So anytime you talk to any governmental official, city, state, municipal, federal level, written correspondences, evidence to sue these people later. Now, how many of you have friends? How many of you got friends that have a car that pay excise car tax to the city? Our parents, our grandparents, our uncles, our cousins, our friends from high school and middle school and elementary school. Your neighbor, your neighbor's neighbor's neighbor. 10 blocks that way, those people. 10 blocks that way, those people. Those people. 10 blocks that way, those people. They're all paying excise car tax to the city, aren't they? How many of them do you think know that violates Article 13, Section 5 of Rhode Island State Constitution? Z road. You see the problem? You see what I say? Knowledge is power.
What's the name of that article?
It's just Rhode Island Constitution, Article 13, Section 5. You don't need to know the name of it. The name don't matter. What it says matters.
Rhode Island Constitution, Section 5.
Article 13, Section 5. Any questions on that? And don't you pay property tax too? Oh. So, wouldn't this information have a great economic impact on you? Right? So why don't these black leaders and these Indian leaders and these Hispanic leaders tell you about this?
They gonna lose their job.
If they care about the people so much, right? Why don't they tell you about this? And this ain't no, you gotta go to the Vatican, right? Remember the whole spiel I said earlier? You gotta give a drop of your blood and do a retina scan, and you gotta do DNA tests to see if you're bloodline lineage of the right Roman family to see these documents. This is Rhode Island State Constitution, which all of them take an oath to. All of them. Every single one of them. All of them. Every single one. All of them. Any questions on how many of them? All of them.
Read it.
Mayor, councilmen and women, the wards, all they take an oath to what? This, right? And don't they talk about, oh, I want to represent my constituents in the best way possible, and because my constituents, and I'm doing the best for my constituents. Well, how come they ain't telling you about this?
Lose their benefits.
Right, so now, if there's anyone running for office, right? I say, oh, you want my vote? Well, you know that Article 13, Section 5 of the Rhode Island State Constitution says that we shouldn't be getting taxed in the city, and all your constituents or your potential constituents are paying excess car tax. You know that's unconstitutional, right? And if they dance around that, run. Any questions? Simple, right? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I know I got the best jokes around. I know. Trust me. You don't gotta laugh. I know you're laughing up here. Any other questions?
You said when they try to charge you.
Ask them, are they aware that that violates Article 13, Section 5 of Rhode Island State Constitution, and then put where it says, no state, city, or town shall levy, assess, or collect taxes unless authorized by the General Assembly. So they would have to specify in writing where the General Assembly of the state of Rhode Island specified that the city can collect taxes from the citizens. And then you would say, well, guess what? I'm not a citizen of your city. I'm an Aboriginal and Indigenous Moorish American national with a separate government. And according to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which your President Obama signed, you have to recognize my rights.
So how important is birthrights?
That
Yeah,
was a great question.
it's a birthright.
Any other questions? Because the more you ask, the more you learn. And then the better the world will be.
After birthright, like, oh shoot, birthright.
Questions? No questions? All right, cool. Who here, not a declared Moor, who's wearing a fez, who here knows what res judicata is? Res judicata. Not you either, Mayonnaise Ali.
Mailbag.
Anyone? Res judicata. I guarantee you know about res judicata, you just don't know it. Who's familiar with your Miranda rights? Miranda rights? We're familiar with that? Okay, so then you're familiar with res judicata. Res judicata is a thing. Res is Latin. It means a thing. Judicata means already adjudicated. So Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution specifies this. It states, full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, which is what those resolutions were, and judicial proceedings of every other state. So in California, they made the decision that if you're arrested, a cop has to read you your Miranda rights, right? Based on the Miranda case, which applies everywhere, right? Article 4, Section 1. That is common law, also known as res judicata. Get it? But didn't they teach you that the Latin language is dead? Right? But guess what they're speaking in court? Latin. Why do you think they told you the Latin language was dead?
You don't know it.
Oh, okay.
Some words look similar.
Right? So res judicata is dealing with claim preclusion and issue preclusion. So if there was already a decision based on a specific instance, and that instance can be applied to other cases, then there's no need to keep having multiple cases about the same issue. You get what I'm saying? So now, this case law that specifies, in order for a crime to exist, there must be an injured party. Are there any questions on that? No questions, right? That's stupid easy, right? In order for a crime to exist, there must be an injured party. Another word for injured party is corpus delicti. Guess what language that is? Latin. Right? It also includes the substance or the body of a crime. So, an example is, if you burn down a house, corpus delicti would be the burnt house. Right? So I can't charge you with burning down the house if there's no house that's burned down. Right? Tracking so far, right? So now, in order for a crime to exist, there must be an injured party, right? So how is having a plant in your pocket a crime?
No one's hurt.
Say that one more time.
No one's hurt.
Right? So they hit you with what? Statutory crime. Which means what? You violated what I wrote down. Does that sound fair to you? So now, statutory quote-unquote crimes, you would use cruden, C-R-U-D-E-N, versus Neale, N-E-A-L-E. So if you got hit with gun charges, right? You had a gun on you. Possession of a weapon. Possession of a deadly weapon, right? Trying to make it real scary. Or you got cannabis in your pocket. Possession of drugs. Controlled substance. You're a drug dealer, right? You got fucking weight on you. That Zaza. That loud pack. Gas. You're going to jail, right? You say, wait a minute. Instead of paying a lawyer $20,000 for nothing, you would say, the courts have no jurisdiction to hear this case because in order for a crime to exist, there must be an injured party. And secondly, if you're charging me with a statutory violation, Cruden versus Neale specifies that all men are independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He's not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow men without his consent. Citizenship. So now if you claim to be a citizen of the state, they can hit you with statutory violations because you agreed. But since you're not a citizen of the state or the city, because you're an aboriginal in sundry, S-U-N-D-R-Y, which means mixed. Sundry means various or mixed. So if you look around this room, you see different shades of brown. So you're sundry Moors. We're mixed Moors. Get it? Sundry Free Moors Act of 1790. All right, and I'll pull out my phone with you guys and gals. Fake news. All right, Sundry Free Moors Act. Then you see where it says it's Wikipedia. But for those of you who doubt, well, Wikipedia is not a reliable source. Okay, cool. Here's the journals of the House of Representatives. 1789 to 1790. Editor, Christine M. Allen, assistant editor, published for the South Carolina and History by the University of Rhode Island, California Press, Columbia, South Carolina. So if you don't believe Wikipedia, here's the book. Right? So when you click on the Sundry Free Moors Act of 1790, you see where it says petition from Sundry Free Moors, right? It specifies on January 1790, a petition was presented to the South Carolina House of Representatives for a group of 4 individuals who were subjects to the Moroccan emperor They don't say king, it says emperor, and residents of the state. They desired that if they happened to commit any fault to be brought to justice, that as subjects to a prince allied or allied, which if you look up the word alliance to etymononline.com, it references treaties between governments with the United States through the Moroccan-American Treaty of Peace and Friendship, they would be tried as citizens instead of under the Negro Act of 1740. Right? And you scroll down, 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 where it says Free Moore's Petition Committee Report. So this is what the state said. Edward reported from the committee petition on the same day, and the House agreed to the report, which read as follows. They have considered the same and are of the opinion no law of this state can, in its construction or operation, apply to them. Why? Diversity. See? So now, again, gun charges, drug charges, they're statutory violations because there's no injured party. Challenge them. Get it?
Awesome.
Fight for your freedom, because an attorney will only fight for a deal. That's the only thing that they do. The word "atturn" means to turn over. Guess what language that is? Latin. Right? And that attorney is probably going to have you plead what? Nolo contendere, which is what language? Latin. Which means no contest, which means you're not contesting to the claims made against you, which is why they say, do you understand that nolo contendere is the same thing as a guilty plea? Because it is. Lawyers don't fight, attorneys don't fight for your innocence. They fight for a deal. Because they get paid, the courts get paid, and you go to jail and then you pay them again later. Any questions on that?
If you made a plea deal, you're convicted.
What?
You agree to that? You agree to that conviction, right?
Yes, but guess what?
All right.
There's case law that says jury can be challenged at any time, even post-conviction. Challenge the court's jurisdictions even hear that case based on things like they're violating res judicata. So even if I was in possession of a gun or drug, quote unquote, that's still not a crime. And again, you're a colonist. I'm not. Act of state doctrine. I had the guns and the drugs on my land. Speak to my government.
Because a lot of people think once they get into the situation where they already took a plea,
Yeah.
and then they come up, they feel like it's not nothing they can do about it yet. You know what I'm saying?
So now, and you can just research everything I'm telling you. I just told you that res judicata are decisions made by judges, right? Which help form the law, right? What's the last word of common law? Law. So now, if a state makes a decision that violates that law, you would challenge that, and that's called raising a federal question, federal court. Article 3, Section 1. 28 U.S.C. 1331. That's your basis of claim. That's the foundation, your basis of claim. You get what I'm saying? Then go in there, ask the clerk for just ask them for a civil claim paperwork, and you'll see the first thing they ask you is your citizenship status. Then it says jurisdiction of the court. Are you a foreigner? They don't ask on the defendant's side. Are they a citizen of the state or are they a foreigner as well? Status, jurisdiction, and then it gets into the nature of your claim, which is a tort. And then under that, I'll specify which U.S. laws or treaties were violated. So if you doubt that this is the truth, go to federal court. Check me. Any questions? And the more you start suing them in federal court, the more they're going to have to stop doing what they're doing.
Facts.
Any questions? If there's no questions, I'm gonna say this. A lot of people try to challenge this information and say, well, you're referencing a case from the 1830s, right? When was the Constitution written? 1774. Which is older than a case from 1830. And guess what we reference in court? The Constitution. So don't allow them to get away with saying stupid shit like that to put doubt in your mind about what you know is true. Tracking? Good? Awkward silence? You straight?
You're gonna have to represent yourself when you go to federal court, right?
So
could you end up getting fried too? Again, you know what I mean? If you walk up in there not knowing you're.
Here's the thing. If you don't plead in propria persona, which means in your proper person, which means mental competence, then you submit to the jurisdiction of the court.
What was that again? What?
If you don't plead in propria persona, which means in your proper person, you submit to the jurisdiction of the court. You know what I'm saying? So that basically means if you're not mentally competent, they're going to be able to say whatever it is that they want to you. Get it? So me and you and I are playing chess, right? And I say, well, all of my pawns can make any moves that they want. They can move sideways and all that shit, but only yours can move forward. If you don't know chess, you're just going to agree to whatever I just said. That's them in court. They're humans. They lie too. But what protects them is that layer of ignorance because you went to their John D. Rockefeller school where they know. I'll read it again. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or of science. We are not to raise up from among them authors, orators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryos, lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have ample supply. So they know that. They know your status coming in. You're done. Grants them jurisdiction and the ability to adjudicate, especially if you get an attorney. And if you doubt anything I'm saying, go to 250 Benefit Street, Rhode Island Supreme and Superior Court, go to the 8th floor, which is the law library, ask the clerk for Corpus Juris Secundum, look up volume 7, and look up attorney-client relationship. And they'll say, an attorney is an officer of the court. That's why they say, hey, listen, man. Listen, hey, come on. You're Kyle, right? They probably even know what you look like. Hey, you're Kyle, right? Listen. I can get it down to a misdemeanor. All you have to do is plead guilty to. You got that 5,000, right? Okay, cool. I know. I've been in front of him multiple times. I'm cool. I'm familiar with the prosecutor too, so I'm pretty sure I can get you this deal. Right? All you gotta do is sign this waiver of your rights, and we can send you home today. And you're like, oh yeah, you're speaking to me real good. How much is it? 1,000? Oh, I got that. That's what they do, right?
Yep.
And if you don't believe me, go to court and just listen.
Yep.
And you'll hear countless people waiving their rights.
And giving up cash.
Every time. Don't believe me. Look it up. You can also go to 250 Benefit Street. Ask them for Black's Law Dictionary, and the clerk will show you where it is. And then look up nationality. And then look up diversity of citizenship. And then look up free white person. And look up colored. And you'll see everything that I'm saying is in their law library. So do they know? Any questions? We got no questions? Yes.
The only reason why they're able to do this is like you said
it's like we not in our right mind, or people don't be in their right mind, so they just sign over not
Yeah.
knowing.
And what you say, Tariq, right? The devil has no power you give to him. All power. Yes.
When you do this in court, right, like in court specifically, do you need to show like an ID?
No.
Or you literally just walk?
To get into federal court, yes, you do.
Okay.
But state court, no, you don't. And we've gotten into federal court with our mortgage IDs multiple times. And also, there's a case. Look up Leonidas Jabir Bey. I'll spell it for you. We got this, right? Because I'm going to show you that we don't just talk bullshit. We walk the bullshit. My penmanship is impeccable, so don't get mad if you can't read it. It's your fault.
Your eyes are wrong.
Leonidas Jabir Bey versus the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. My penmanship is amazing, I know. It's perfection, I know. My brain works. This was about 15 witnesses, I think. Whereas we walked into federal court with our Moorish American nationality cards and they just let us. Right? Yo, also, huh? Oh, we walked into federal court with our Moorish American IDs, our nationality cards, and they let us in.
All right. So
Because they have to. Because we're a separate nation of people.
But they know who you are.
Exactly.
But the police don't know who
Hey,
you are.
here's the laws you need to know about your identification.
I thought that was radio stuff. It's the bling, it's the bling.
So, we walked into the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Massachusetts. I think it's One Courthouse Way in Boston. Walked into federal court with our mortgage IDs. The United States laws that confirm that they have to recognize our IDs is Title 18 of the United States Code, subsection 1028, letter D, number 3. Which, when you read the Real ID Act of 2005, it references Title 18, subsection 1028, D3. You can also look, actually pull your phones out, please. Look up Justice Resource Manual 1508.
Justice.gov.
Yes, CRM 1508. Let me know when y'all got it. And then someone has to volunteer to read, please.
My fault. The last four numbers?
1508. And then someone volunteer to read, please.
Specifically mentioned identification documents.
Louder? Yes.
Cool.
Oh, you want to volunteer or no?
Yeah, sure. From A?
Yeah.
Birth
No,
certificate.
no, from above that, sorry.
Alright.
What did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, imagine that.
That's the one. 3 special non-federal ID and gives them preferred treatment. These 3 documents, in the absence of a nationality ID card.
What does that say? In the absence of a nationality card, which means a nationality card is superior, right? So in the absence of a nationality card, they'll accept what?
Are the prime means by which an individual establishes his identity in the U.S. The three documents are birth certificate, driver's license, and personal identification card.
Now skip down to letter B. That's driver's licenses, right? What does it read?
Reading B.
Yes, please.
Is not defined, or driver's license is not defined in 18 U.S.C. and 1028.
So a driver's license is not defined as an ID. Continue, please.
The original purpose of this government issued document was to state that the particular person was authorized to operate a vehicle upon the public roadways.
What else does it say?
It was not intended to establish identity.
So, a driver's license is just proof that you can drive on the road. It's not ID.
For us,
For anyone.
for anybody.
Anybody.
Repeat that again.
Good.
From where?
The part where.
So, you see? It's not about to die, right? So, letter B. It says driver's license. The original purpose of this government-issued document was to state that a particular person was authorized to operate a vehicle upon the public roadways. It was not intended to establish one's identity. So it's not ID. It's a driver's license. It's permission for you to drive. That's it.
Which you don't even need.
Exactly. So like if you get a, let me see here. If you get like a, I'm trying to think. Can't even think of anything. You know how they're trying to say the driver's license doesn't conform to the Real ID Act? Right? That's why they're trying to get you to get, Providence is trying to issue city IDs, right? And there's like a star rating and 5 was whatever. On the new driver's license it says not federal ID or whatever. They're telling you, right in your base. And you'll see on the back of Providence cop cars, commercial enforcement. I don't say law enforcement. It says commercial enforcement, which is business, which is just commerce. That's it. Which is why they give you a driver's license to be subject to commerce, which is you again giving them jurisdiction. All right. So knowing that, we went to federal court and said, "Yeah, here's our national ID." They couldn't say no.
I did the same thing in Michigan. So
Right.
it's not like it's one place.
Yeah. Also, look up Leonidas Jabreve versus the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. If you don't have a Pacer account, you don't have. I mean, you could get one if you want. But you'll see where. So they'll show you the case overview, and they'll show you how the case was granted pro bono, which is guess what? Latin. Pro bono means for free. Normally, to file a claim in federal court, you have to pay $400. It's called you're poor. And then they ask you, in violation of the Fourth Amendment, to give you basically whatever it is that they're asking. So us knowing that violates the Fourth Amendment, us knowing that there is no money, and us knowing that, and you can look this up, it's United States Code, that the judges shall not pay any respect towards your financial status, whether you're rich or poor. Knowing that the First Amendment says you have the right to petition the government for grievances, which means you have the right to sue, they can't charge you. Because remember, they all taught you that taxes goes towards the administration of government. So the tax dollars pay for the court to be open for anyone to file a claim. But they know you went to a John D. Rockefeller General Education Board incorporated in 1902, so they know you don't know this. But you talk to our people about taxes, oh yeah, we have to pay because it pays for the road, it pays for government, it pays for A, B, C, D, and E. So if it pays for that, why are they charging you to file a claim? When it's your First Amendment right? Congratulations, you played yourself. Right? So us knowing that, we filed pro bono. United States Chief Justice at the time, Patty V. Saris, accepted the case pro bono. We didn't pay a dime. Which means if we don't like her decision, even moving towards the appeal, we have to pay the extra $500. Right? Then if we want to get a writ of certiorari or petition the Supreme Court, we don't have to pay that either. You know what I'm saying? So now most of our people, when they go through some type of issues, they're like, damn, I can't afford to pay the $400 filing fee, and then if I lose, then I have to pay the court fees. So they just don't sue. You know what I'm saying?
You don't have to pay it at all.
Exactly.
Ever.
Here's proof. So now, if this works in federal court because there's no money, should you be paying rent? Should you be paying taxes? Should you be paying a mortgage? Should you be paying for food? Should you be living paycheck to paycheck? But Jamal, that's not fair. Oh, it's not? How come the governor Gina Raimondo did it? How come she don't pay bills? Jamal, that's crazy. You're making it up. Oh, for real? You think I'm making it up? Yeah, some of y'all would say last week. You know what I'm saying? Any questions? No questions. We're just solid. Straight. Literally ask any question. Anything.
How would you use this, for example?
Use what?
This.
This?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you want to file a claim in federal court, right? And then they ask you to pay the filing fee. Guess what you would say? You would reference this res judicata. Well, according to Jabir Bay versus the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, none of us are obligated to pay any filing fees. Yeah.
An attorney or reference another case
Exactly.
to win your case.
Exactly.
Ourselves.
Exactly.
And you just state it, and that's enough.
Absolutely. Isn't that what they do?
And if they deny it?
And if they deny that, then they're warring against their own government, which is treasonous. Which you have to know that the punishment for treason is what?
Yeah.
Death.
Give me that head.
That's not because, oh, we're evil people and we hate them. That's their law. What do you want from me? You wrote it. But guess what they're counting on?
You not to know.
You not. And then they're counting on, if you start to wake up, they have the little Negro informant sellouts, their little leaders, to say, oh no, that's not real. The Moors are making that stuff up. Even though we're giving you case law. Even though it's in the Rhode Island Constitution. Even it's in the United States federal laws. Even it's in the congressional records. Yeah.
It's funny how you mentioned that part, because this is different from that, but I was just recently watching The Godfather of Harlem, and they show that. They show like how they would use all types of people to discredit what Malcolm was trying to do.
Absolutely.
At the time, and it just resonated with me a lot, because I'm like, yeah, I see that to this day, you know,
Yeah.
with my own people, my own community. So
Yeah. It's called the Counterintelligence Program. COINTELPRO. It's now called the Black Identity Extremist Program, or Black Identity Extremist List, which the Congressional Black Caucus exposed the FBI and its director, Christopher Wary, who is a Jesuit, exposed how that's quote-unquote racist, so they changed it to racially motivated extremists. Guess who they're still targeting?
Same people.
Look in that mirror. And then you can literally Google search, what? Pull out your phone. I know you hate pulling out your phone, right?
I'm like,
Too many facts. Google search, church, just like the Christian church, church committee, 1975, senate.gov. Huh?
I'm telling them to look it up.
Oh no, they're not going to. They're gonna say Jamal's wrong and he's making it up.
That's what some bootleggers like. Oh, Jamal's making this up. I'm like, he's reading from Res Judicata. He's reading from the Constitution. He's reading from Black's Law Dictionary. You can go Google every single thing that he's saying right now. So
What was that again?
It's Church Committee, 1975, Senate.gov.
You've done all this research?
Right? And I'm gonna do it with you just so you can follow along.
For a long time. It's a man.
Thou may obey. Senate. Yes, you see where it says Senate.gov, right? Click on that, please. And you see where it specifies that this is SENATEGOV. Guess what? Guess what language the word Senate is derived from?
Latin.
Latin. It's derived from the word seniorum, which means elder. Right? Then you see Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities. Scroll down, all the way down, till you see the subparagraph outcome. Let me know when you find it. Right before that, it specifies committee staff researched the FBI's long-running program of covert action designed to disrupt and discredit the activities of groups and individuals deemed a threat to the social order, quote-unquote white supremacy, which is not white supremacy. It's your colonial genocide. That's what it is. Right? Known as COINTELPRO. Then you see where it says, click on, it says final report. It's blue, which means it's a hyperlink. Click on that. Another page will pop up. It says intelligence-related commissions, other select or special committees, and special reports. Scroll down. You see where it says reports. It says hearings. Go to hearings. Go to volume 6, federal investigation, November 18th, 19th, December 2nd, 3rd, 9th, 10th, and 11th, 1975. Guess what happened in 1975? Muhammad Ali fight.
Exactly. That's
So while the Senate was publicly telling you we're targeting your people and we're murdering them, you was oh shit, Muhammad Ali's fighting. Oh shit, yeah, hell yeah.
I'm in search.
Okay, you see how this is 1,005 pages? Go to page 300. They know our people aren't going to read this. You know what they say, if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in the book.
put it in the book.
All right, go to page 300. Not 300 on the top where it says, you know, whatever of 1,005. The pages are off a little bit.
Can't believe they really showed this in the golf hall. What he's talking about, they showed it in the TV show.
They always put it in TV.
Everything is on TV.
You also see where the church committee was investigating the CIA and they had a heart attack gun. They were giving people heart attacks. That's why Muhammad Ali had Parkinson's. They gave that to him. You can literally Google search biological weapons program and they weaponized coronavirus. Oh shit, imagine that. You don't have to believe me, you can just look it up. All right, so page 300, you gotta do a bunch of scrolling, blah, 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 blah. 300. Actually, I might be wrong on the page number. I'm sorry, it starts at 347. All right, scroll down. Go to page. Oh yes, after that.
They talking about it's like 6 lives going on right now.
Where is it? Here we go, got it. It's page 389. You'll see on page 389, remember this is from Senate.gov. So this is the United States government, the elders of the United States government. This is what they do. Not have done, they do. Because you can cross-reference this with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, cross-reference this with Congresswoman Karen Bass, and cross-reference this with Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and the Congressional Black Caucus, where they told you, the American public, that COINTEL 2.0 is on the rise. So did it stop? Okay. It says this. You see at the top it says RE, which is Latin, which means in relation to, Counterintelligence Program, Black Nationalist Hate Group. You see where it says goals? For maximum effectiveness of the counterintelligence program and to prevent wasted efforts, long-range goals are being set. Number 1, prevent the coalition of militant black nationalist groups, and unity there is strength, a truism that is no less valid for all its strictness. An effective coalition of black nationalist groups might be the first step towards a real Mau Mau in America, the beginning of a true black revolution. So the Mau were fighters in Kenya who fought against, and you'll see that the government of Kenya recognizes them as the first freedom fighters. You see number 2, prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant black nationalist movement. Then you see where it says blank, it says Malcolm X might have been such a messiah. He is the martyr of the movement today because they murdered him. Then it says in Google search, Black Messiah Act, you'll see it unredacted. So on here it's redacted. And you'll see where it says Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael, and Elijah Muhammad all aspire to this position. Then it says Elijah Muhammad is less of a threat because of his age, meaning Martin Luther King, could be a very real contender for this position should he abandon his supposed obedience to white liberal doctrines, nonviolence, race, black nationalism. So as soon as he started doing that, guess what they did to him? No, they didn't kill him. Murdered him. Because if you try to attack my daughter, I'm going to kill you. That's defense of a life. If you're just sitting there doing nothing and I take your life, that's murder.
This is ironic.
There's a bunch of the Malcolm X documentary that Asiatic did where Malcolm X killer was in New Jersey just living his life until he died, until he's 90. And everyone knew he did it because he's protected by the FBI. Jeff Fort, so-called gang leader, but he got a fez. And said Moore Science Temple of America, Adept Chamber, and the Moors were wearing fezzes. And in the FBI reports of the newspaper articles of the time, he's wearing long flowing garbs and red fezzes, but he's a gang. In Google search Jeff Fort pictures, you see him and Larry Hoover with fezzes on. Anyone that's going to use people, they target them.
I watched a video of Barack Obama some years ago, like a while ago, and it was like he was doing a speech on something having to do with the indigenous, and I noticed that during the speech he had said that he recognized that he thanks Morocco for recognizing the United States and for all that they did for the United States.
Of course.
And that just left my head ringing. From that day on, I was just wanting to know what did he mean by that. And now I know more.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. So now you're gonna say, well, no, Jamal, FBI COINTELPRO stopped in 1956, right? That's what you're gonna tell me, right? Sure. So then, guess what I'm gonna show you?
Proof.
Yeah, no shit, huh? Surprise, surprise. So this is from, what did I say? Someone read that? What did I say? Congress.gov. Does that say JamalsOpinion.com? Does that say JamalsBelief.net? Does that say RiseOfTheMoors.org? It says Congress.gov, don't it? That says, just confirm it, right? Does this say December 4th, 2019, issue volume 165, number 193, daily edition. Is that what that says? Okay. Does it also say 116th Congress?
Yep.
It don't say Jamal's Congress, right? It don't say Jamal's delegation, right? It don't say the International Players Haters Ball, right? It says 116th Congress, right? Then it says commemorating the life and legacy of Fred Hampton, right? Didn't they just do a movie called Judas and the Black Messiah about them murdering Fred Hampton in his own home? So does Congress know? Do your black leaders know?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It says, this is Mrs. Omar, the Muslim lady, right? Miss Omar, Madam Speaker, I want to first thank Congressman Rush, Bobby Rush, who was a what? Black Panther.
Oh, there we go.
So do they know? Okay, cool.
Point so.
And Davis for allowing us to be here to honor the legacy of Fred Hampton. 50 years ago today, a 21-year-old American revolutionary, did it say black? He was 21 years old. 21. 21 years old. He was uniting with the so-called blacks, the so-called whites, the so-called KKK, the so-called Hispanic, the so-called Asians. Well, they are Asian. Right? And he called it the Rainbow Coalition. So you think these people that are oppressing all of us equally can have that? No. So they murdered a 21-year-old. Remember, Congresswoman is saying this, not Jamal. Congresswoman is, right? 21-year-old American revolutionary was murdered in his own home by 14 Chicago police officers who were found to be colluding with the FBI as part of the COINTELPRO initiative. This initiative was a series of covert and often surveilling, infiltrating, and destructing civil rights organizations, feminist organizations, peace activists, the environmentalist movement, and native groups. Common tactics used by COINTELPRO were perjury. That means lying under oath. Witness intimidation. And withholding evidence to falsely imprison and assassinate leaders of the Black Panther Party. You think that's just targeted toward the Black Panther Party? Or any organization where our people are trying to come together to change our condition? Because remember, the Black Panther Party was founded off principles taught by Malcolm X after they murdered him. For the same reason. Pass this around, take pictures, show your friends. But wait, there's more.
Where'd you find?
Congress.
DJ, where'd you find?
They also talk about how they murdered Martin Luther King, who was. So you know how they try to say, you know, Black History Month, they heavily promote MLK, right? Because he's telling you to be passive as fuck. They briefly mention Malcolm, because he was trying to separate, right? So they don't want you to bear arms and separate like Malcolm and declare your nationality. They want you to be a passive, obedient nigger. Martin Luther King. But guess what they did to both of them? Murdered them. Okay. So now this, what does that say right there? At the top.
Congressional record.
Congressional record. Does this say Jamal's belief? Does this say Moorish doctrine, Moorish science belief? No, it says congressional record. This is H, so House, that's what the H stands for, 8072. The date is October 23rd, 2017. So is this old? Okay, cool. This is Barbara Lee, Miss Barbara Lee. She says, Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentlewoman, well, someone else. Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentlewoman from California, Miss Lee, so she can tell her story. Thank her for joining us this evening. This is Miss Lee speaking. Mr. Speaker, I thank Congresswoman Veasley for yielding, but also remarkable leadership here in Congress. and for hosting this very important special order this evening. Mr. Speaker, I rise along with my colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus, which means all the black leaders know this. All of them. All of them. All of them. How many of them? All of them. Can one of them not know this? No. The Congressional Black Caucus, with a message for the American people. This is what she said. Wake up. This is what she said. COINTELPRO 2.0 is on the rise. That's what she said. Mr. Speaker, now in a report that was never supposed to see the light of day, Counterterrorism Division branded African Americans in the fight for injustice as black identity extremists that pose a domestic threat to police officers. Now, I have witnessed many covert tactics designed to suppress African American activism in my life. But the revelation of this report is one of the most troubling details I have learned about our government. I remember very clearly the days of COINTELPRO under J. Edgar Hoover. As a community worker close with the Black Panther Party and their 10-point platform, which made programs possible and paved the way for our government's free breakfast for low-income children. So they're telling you that the government stole the idea, well, the European colonial government, murdered Panthers, and then took their idea of serving the people, to keep the people dependent on the same government that's murdering the people. Congresswoman saying this, not me, not my belief, not Jamal.com, not Jamal.net, not my .org, not my Christian belief, not my Muslim belief. This is Congress. I remember very well, I just read that. So I'll just read that again. I remember very clearly the days of COINTELPRO under J. Edgar Hoover. As a community worker who worked closely with the Black Panther Party and their 10-point platform, it's not only alarming, it is frightening. Excuse me. Young men and women who take a stand for justice. According to the FBI, black identity extremists, BIE, perceptions of police brutality against African Americans has been an increase in predetermined, retaliatory, lethal violence against and will very likely serve as justification for such violence in the future. My God. Take pictures, show your friends. Any questions? I'll ask you. Did COINTELPRO end?
No.
Do you have proof of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Where's your proof?
Library of Congress.
On our hands, and also.
Library of Congress. Specifically, which people?
Senator Olson.
You can say the Congressional Black Caucus, or you can say Representative or Congresswoman Barbara Lee, or you can say Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, or you can say Congresswoman Karen Bass. California. Yep. 3 women standing up, 3 Asiatic women standing up telling you this is what you're up against. Good.
Yeah, my bad. Karen Bass is from the TV show about they show the Asian bringing up all that stuff that happened with what's his name? The railroad cross and that happened in California and all of that.
Yeah.
That's where the name rung bell. Makes sense. That's crazy. That's the same woman you talking about.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
She was on the report where she was I think she was speaking to, I think it was Jeff Sessions at the time, where she was questioning him about the black identity extremist list, which is why they changed it to the racially motivated extremist list. To try to hide it from you. Any questions? Want to wrap it up?
Yes.
Thank you for your time. Don't let this discourage you, because there ain't nothing else to do. Except for stand up for your rights. What else is there to do? It's either you're going to stand up or lay down. And it's easier to stand up with other people.
Right.
That's just a fact.
Get down or lay down.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
Peace.
Peace.
We
Love, peace,
family.
peace. You can stay, you can leave, or whatever. Also, if you want to donate,
Here.
Donate to Manny so that way we can keep doing this here.
You have cash everyone?
Be real, it's more like, if we can organize what we could bring next time. You know what I mean? Or I'll talk about it instead of giving me actual money. I don't need the money.
Huh?
Friday?
No, that's
Are you gonna give this to me? Thank you. I'll accept it. Love, peace, and chicken grease.
Like,